Here we go. Welcome to 6 in the 6, episode 6, season 1. Can't believe this is episode 6. Anyway, the fabulous, the field hockey goalie phenom from Southern New Hampshire University, Nichole Roberts. Yay!
Hello, hello.
What is up, Nichole?
Not much. I'm in the middle of preseason right now, so just grinding away with that. And I'm an RA as well, so I'm in the middle of RA training too.
Oh
Busy.
man, I feel the preseason stuff. We just wrapped up week 2 of ours for soccer, so it's a grind, double sessions.
Yep, double sessions and lifts here and there. It's only the first week for me, so got one more to go.
The life of the collegiate athlete. So before we get going too far, it is important that we play the intro music to give you a proper introduction.
I love it.
Get ready, here they come. And that's the fabulous intro music.
Woohoo!
I know, right? Doesn't seem to be that exciting once you actually get going on it. So, hey, great to see you. The last time I saw you, I was helping out with a field hockey goalie clinic, only knowing a little bit about it, and you helped educate me in the ways of field hockey goaltending.
Yeah, and you helped me a lot too, just with basic goalie skills. So it was a great kind of connection we had there with that.
I love how the different goalie positions kind of all play into each other. And I think what I really like, I guess I'll say I'm primarily a lacrosse goalie coach, although my soccer family might raise a stink about that statement. But boy, yeah, lacrosse is typically like, okay, you can use your top hand to make saves, and that's what we save with. And it's I think it's the only sport where you can only use one hand. Can you imagine a soccer goalie only having one hand?
No, yeah, I was a soccer goalie growing up until about 8th grade, and I wasn't good at it, so maybe I was only using one hand. But
well, maybe.
But
I think like the angling and the movement patterns, and certainly the mentality between the ears, I think is the same for anybody getting something shot at them, and you're supposed to stand in front of it.
Absolutely. I've always heard, every goalkeeper has to be a little bit crazy. A little bit.
Well, and I think I tell some of my little ones that I have to train you not to be human, because the first thing we do as humans when something's shot at us is we protect our head and our heart area, and we have to kind of train ourselves to stay big and kind of take that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and this is totally against all human reactions, what we do.
Yeah, so I appreciate the help that day. It was really kind of cool. And then Coach Munson the next day got to come over and learn some lacrosse goalie stuff. So maybe next year when we're back up there, you can stay an extra day and see how the lacrosse goalies work.
Yeah, I'd love to, because I tried lacrosse for a little bit and it didn't stick with me. I wasn't a goalie there either. So I'd love to see just the comparisons and what's similar and different. It's always good.
Because I know someday you're going to be a coach and all this information will help.
I am a coach right now at a club, the one I grew up playing at, Seacoast United. I do some goalie stuff here and there with some of the younger kids.
How do you, I always like the goalies I work with at Roberts, both soccer and lacrosse. I get them involved in my business, helping me coach, because I really feel putting on the coach hat and having to instruct somebody on how to do something gives you a different look at your game, especially the basics. You might be like, oh, I just told her she should be doing that, but am I doing that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or I'll question someone. I'll just, hey, I saw you reacted this way. Talk me through your process, what you were thinking of and what you were seeing. And now I catch myself doing that to myself. Like, oh, I reacted this way. Could I have done it better? What else was I seeing, thinking? So it definitely circles back to you, especially when you're still playing. Yeah.
I love what you said there. the questioning the student, the goalie student that you're working with, and having them answer those questions for you. Maybe you got a little peek of that out of me in that short day, but I really like to make my goalies think, because I'm not standing next to you guys when you're in the middle of a game. You need to be able to figure that puzzle out.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's also something that Coach Munson has drilled in me too. I don't thank her enough for how many skills she's taught me. She'll always come up to our group things and be like, all right, what did you think when we come together? Not, oh, let me tell you exactly what I want to see. She'll be like, all right, what did you see that was good? What did you see that was bad? Or that needs improvement. She'll never say bad. What needs improvement? And we always have to work that out ourselves. And it definitely makes us better personally too, because then when we're not in those team talks and our team isn't figuring it out, if we make a mistake in a game, we need to think about for ourselves in game what needs improvement, and we can fix that on our own. And it's definitely a very crucial thought process.
Right. I think that's why her and I hit it off so much in our mindset course, because we have that similar thought. And you made me think when you were saying that. The other thing I always think is important, that in asking you that question, did you make the wrong decision but the correct action based on that, or did you just make the wrong action based on the right decision? Right. So it's kind of a different way to train you based on, are we training your perception, or are we actually training your reaction process?
Yeah, it's definitely a good thought. And I catch myself doing that a lot too. Like, oh, I had the right idea, I just didn't execute it properly. So sometimes you definitely do need outside guidance for help on how to execute something properly, or if you're just not seeing something right. But just hearing those little tidbits of help definitely help you learn on top of the previous thought process of what you can do next.
Yeah. Well, I am super excited. You are the first field hockey goalie on this podcast, which is exciting all on its own. Maybe Carly will end up watching this, or maybe not. But if she doesn't, you need to tell her my back is still sore from her teaching me how to shoot that backhand shot.
Yeah, the backs and knees and hips, those go quick for field hockey, and she's my roommate. I'll tell her that as soon as I get back to the room.
I do not know how you guys do that. That's the first thing I said to her, especially with her height. I'm like, man, dude, your back must hurt all the time.
Yeah, the goal is to bend your knees and keep upright, but it doesn't always happen, especially when you need to dig in for some of those shots. Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, let's get into this, because I know a little itty bitty amount of field hockey. So I think I'm going to learn a little more here. So, hopefully, right. So I read that you only started playing field hockey in high school as a freshman.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I just picked up from earlier that you kind of transitioned into that from your soccer career, perhaps.
Yeah. So
how did that all happen?
Yeah, my town when I was growing up, they had a huge soccer program. You know, the high school soccer team was amazing. So they had a good trail of little peewee leagues, travel leagues leading up to the high school league. And field hockey, we never really had that. It was just the middle school team and then the high school team. So as a kid wanting to play as many sports as I could, my mom put me in soccer for the fall. So I grew up playing soccer from the itty bitty ages till about 8th grade. And it was fun for me. I really did enjoy soccer a lot, but my skills weren't nearly at the level as everyone else. And I definitely could have pushed harder, but I got to the point of like, oh, maybe it'd be nice to try something else. And we had a fair where all the varsity athletes from the high school came to our middle school and just presented about their sports and stuff like that. And I got to see field hockey, and this is a funny story. I was such a tomboy as a kid. I would no dresses, no skirts if I got to choose. So seeing field hockey players always wear skirts was off-putting to me.
Yeah, right.
And they came up to me and they're like, but if you're a goalie, you don't have to wear a skirt. And I was like, all right, I'm in. So that's how I started as a field hockey goalie. And I played on the freshman varsity team because there was no other goalies and there was maybe one sub on that team, not even enough to field the JV team. And it was my first time in the pads. As a soccer goalie before, you have your gloves, that's it. So I was in a full kit with the kickers, the big foam leg pads. It was a whole different experience, but with a team that was so tired from no subbing, and we were playing teams that had the full varsity and full JV roster, they were always pumping ready to go and ripping shots on me all day. So I got to experience about 30 to 40 shots per game in my first time playing.
Wow.
So it was a lot, but it was just so exciting to get that feeling of, oh, well, maybe I let 10 in on a bad day, because I was getting so many, but those 40 or 30 I saved before, it was such a satisfactory feeling for me. And I love learning new things. And that was my new thing at the time. And I keep learning new things in this position. So it's definitely held my interest for quite a while.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough way to learn, but what a great way to learn with kind of your attitude and mindset of just, I'm going to learn. Getting those shots is definitely a good learning environment.
Absolutely.
Did you ever struggle kind of mentally with, oh man, I let 10 in, or, whatever the goal number was? Seeing so many shots can be a little hard on the mindset.
It definitely was a struggle, maybe my first or second game, because I felt like I was letting the seniors down. But I had to consistently remind myself, if I wasn't here, there would be no goalie. Because at the time, there wasn't going to be a goalie. Everyone else had only played field player positions. They were going to field the team with no goalie. So I was like, I'm just here to help them out, basically.
Hold on, hold on.
And
How does that work? So you would play at you said freshman varsity level, and you could field a team with no goalie?
yeah, they would have, instead of having 10 on the field and one goalie, they were just going to have 11 on the field.
Oh, so that poor last defender has to kind of run in front of shots,
Like a little
not
sweeper.
officially be a goalie.
Exactly. So I had to just remind myself that, it was what it was. And one of the seniors on the team, I want to say it was her cousin, came in to coach me. She was a goalie in college as well. So she came in and kind of helped me out. And she did a lot on mental strength. That was her whole thing. You're doing great. You're doing everything you can with what you've been given. So just remind yourself, if that ball comes to you, it passes 10 people in front of you before it gets to you. That's not a shot in on you. It's a shot in on the whole team. So that helped me kind of take that guilt off of me and just think, all right, now the team just needs to do better. We all need to do better. What can we do next? And she would beat me down physically with conditioning and then continue to rip shots at me so that, oh, that was one missed. Okay, what's next? Just so I wasn't thinking physically anymore. My body was already shot. It was just, what can my mind do to get me to that next step? And that training with her was intense, but it was motivating for me.
I like that mindset of, you're not by yourself on the island and you can't kind of burden that entire responsibility. I think one of the problems with the goalie position is you have, women's sports. So you have 18 fans in the stands, and
Yeah.
and they're all watching the play, and the last person they see is the goalie. You're either the hero or the goat, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, my mom was always a big supporter too. If she ever saw me on the field, kind of, get up slow from a dive, or if I'd be just, she would tell me to reset. She'd be reset from the sideline. And I'd just walk back into the goal and I'd walk out and I'd be like, all right, it's a 0-0 game. Just pretend it's 0-0. We're here. We're going to do what we can. Cause I know I can't run out there and go score goals myself. So I just had to do what I could do for myself and for my team. Cause if I stayed stuck in the past, we wouldn't move forward.
Yeah,
basically.
absolutely. I always talk about goalie save perfection world, which is like 50%. I mean, 55 if you're really good on
Yeah.
the women's side. Is field hockey more like ice hockey where, maybe it's up in the high 90s usually, or
Last time, I mean, I haven't really looked at it, but a good percentage for me, if I save 2/3 of the shots that come at me, I'm content with myself. And I think it's kind of the same. Like, yeah, 66% roughly.
yeah, and it's good to stay focused on that too. We're talking about that kind of mindset of saving, and hey, so it's a shooter's game in a lot of cases, and you're not going to get them all. There's some smart shooters. I hate to admit it.
Yep. And on our
Um,
team too, during practice, I'm always the shooting drills. We call them, my coach, Julie Munson, she'll call them scoring drills for the field players. And then she'll turn to us and be like saving drills. They're coming in rapid fire, and these shots are, oh, top left, oh, bottom right, like back and forth so quick. So it's not about saving everyone anymore. It's just making one that's challenging for you and then just resetting and doing the best you can yet again.
yeah, I love that reset, and again, I'm not surprised she talks about that either. So you're the only goalie back those days. And we talked about the mental side of it. Did you feel any pressure to be like in really good physical condition as well? Because you're it. If you got injured either mentally or physically, you can't come out. Well, I mean, if your leg was broken, maybe they drag you out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I have quite a few stories about that. Basically, coming in, the standards weren't really high for that first high school team I played for. I ended up transferring schools my senior year, and that school was a lot tougher, but I had already trained end on end by then. My freshman year, I was the most fit person just walking on the field that first day because I had played so many sports in the past, and I was still very active in basketball at that time. So I was never personally worried about that because I was like, oh, look, I'm good compared to others. And definitely when I started getting into goalie movements, I noticed that I was missing some goalie muscles, some muscles that you don't typically use as someone who's just playing basketball or running on the field for soccer. There's different muscle groups you use. So I would train on those at home on my own, but the hardest thing for me was definitely if I was ever physically like sick. If I had a cold, I'd push through it. If I felt like I was getting the flu, I'd push through it. I was someone who, if it meant I was sick the next day, oh shoot, I'm sick the next day. And there was one time it was really bad. I was feeling physically and mentally well going into this one game. And I got on the bus with my team. It was maybe my sophomore year of high school, and there was 8 field players we had on our team at the time. So no subs, we were already playing down, and somehow we miraculously made it to playoffs. It was a crazy event. We lost every game that season, but won one game against a team that was a class above us. And that put us into the first round of playoffs.
All right.
And we were driving on the bus there, and the team was like, oh, this team, they're going to kill us. This is going to be awful. Last time we played them, they won 12-0 or some crazy number like that. So mentally, I was a little like, shoot, like this is going to be a tough one, even though I went in mentally ready.
Yeah,
So,
or be quiet up there in the front of the bus.
yeah, I was like, la, 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 la in the back. And then we got there. Yeah, it was tough, but it was fine. And I kind of worked my way through it. And I think the score was almost close to 10 by the end of the first half. And one of my players is coming down defending an attacker on a breakaway. So it's just 2 players running at me. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do a nice little double stack save. And I called my defender off, and I'm like, off, mine. And I don't know if it was the noise or what, but she didn't hear me. And she her elbow or her stick or something hit me right in the stomach. And I was winded. I lost all breath. And then the play was started again. So I had to be up and I had to be ready. And then it was shot, shot, shot all over again, your little intro all over again. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was hyperventilating. I was like, couldn't catch my breath. I was still in that anxious moment. And I was hyperventilated basically through that whole game because no one noticed, because I was way back from everyone else and I was still focused on the game. I wasn't thinking about that then.
Right.
And on the bus ride home, people were talking to me and it was all foggy and I wasn't hearing anyone. I actually ended up being taken to the hospital on the way back from that game because I was so focused on the game that I didn't realize like my own mental, physical well-being, because I was like, I'm the only one here. I got to stay in. It doesn't matter. And that was my breaking point where I was like, all right, no, if I'm not feeling well, if I'm not mentally 100% there, I just need to take my day for myself and my physical safety, because I passed out on the bus from hyperventilating for like an hour.
That's crazy.
Crazy. It's insane. And not any normal person, you know, if I tell someone that, they're going to be like, you're crazy for ever letting that happen. But now it was a big learning experience for me to be able to recognize those signs in myself. And like, if I'm just having a bad allergy day, maybe I need to be like, hey, coach, I'm going to be at practice, but maybe I need to just be a little easier on myself. I might step out for a bit. And just having that, your own physical and mental awareness for yourself in these intense sports, especially at the collegiate level, is incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that point up because you're so right. Maybe I'm a little crazy. When I was thinking, you were talking through that and I was kind of like, wow, that's really different than a lot of, I feel a lot of younger people these days are kind of like, they don't push that boundary of that. They don't know where that is. They're like, oh, I don't know. I don't really feel so good today. I'm not just going to go full, as opposed to actually seeing where it is. And I think it's good training for when you start getting your bottom kicked out in the real world someday.
Yeah, my mom was the one who drilled that in on me from a very young age. She's a very, very strong woman. And if she saw me getting like, about something, she'd be like, go do it. Go do it and you'll enjoy it. Go do it and you'll have fun. And if you don't, you won't do it again. That's fine. So it was always in my mind as a kid, well, just go do it. Just go do it. And, you know, if I end up not being well, all right, well, now I learned. And I might have done that a little too hard. And that's where I learned from that.
Yeah, I'd say in that case, you probably maybe pushed a little too hard.
Probably.
I love that attitude though, and that mentality. That's actually why you're here talking to me on this, because every kind of cool thing I've ever done, I've really been very scared and tentative and didn't want to do it. But when I got through the other side, I'm like, oh, I'm really glad I did that. So
yeah. And thank you again for coming all the way to Southern New Hampshire for that one goalie clinic, because it was a great experience for me as well.
oh, it was so awesome. We're going to do it again next year.
No, you better.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Oh, yes, you better be. And your roommate.
Yes.
So you talked about multiple sports in college, obviously high school, field hockey. You mentioned basketball. I think I saw track.
Yes.
So obviously you like to be a multi-sport athlete. Talk briefly about, how do you feel having those different experiences in basketball and track and field hockey at the high school level? How did that help you today be a collegiate athlete?
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, I had played basketball as my first sport. I started playing that with my sister around when I was like 2 years old. They put a basketball in my hand. Played on my first teams all the way up until about my freshman year of high school. And my mindset at the time was, I need a college scholarship. That was my mindset at the time. And I thought basketball was going to be my ride to that. I now have learned that scholarships aren't everything, but as a 14-year-old, that's what I was thinking. If I wanted to go to college, I needed a scholarship. But I had that in my mind that I wanted to be a college athlete for a very long time. And even though I thought it was going to be basketball, oops, it ended up being field hockey, and I wasn't expecting that at all. But I think I've just learned so much from just so many different coaches. I learned a lot from myself, obviously, just what I enjoy, which is definitely being, athletic and playing sports all the time and getting that group experience with all the teammates and everything. But I've learned so much from all my coaches throughout the years that I couldn't even tell you. Just the mindset, go-getter attitude, always have had that just from, I don't know. I've just always been so aggressive as a kid when it comes to sports. It's like, these are my thing. Like, this is my thing. Sports are my thing. And, going into my freshman year of high school, being an all varsity athlete, everyone kind of knew, like, that's my thing. So, gosh, what even was the question again? I just got so into that.
I love it. You got into it. I think it took me about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to notice that kind of competitive sports side of you. You don't hide it very well.
No, nope. And I don't plan to, because it's going to be a competition. You need to know too. So we're competing together.
That's right. I don't want you to hide it. I want you to get out in the world and kick its butt a few times.
Oh, heck yeah.
So you said you really wanted to play collegiately. So you get to SNHU. Did you kind of have this moment of, oh, wow, this is a lot of stuff to do now. I'm a student athlete. There is like practices and weight room and homework and
Yeah. So my first year in college was the COVID year. So it was at home, just doing online school. So I was lucky enough to get to see that side first, where yes, we had our training packet for at home, but I could do that whenever I wanted. I didn't have scheduled practices, and I got to see the school side separately. So I got to gauge kind of what I needed for college before getting to college, which was really good for me because I'm a big time management person. I need to have like everything scheduled out. All right, I'm going to do this homework here. I have practice at this time, schedule in my me time. I'm really big into all that. So getting to see it separately was really good. But then obviously once I got to school, my freshman year, it was just preseason at the time, or sophomore year. I don't know if I said that right. Going in my sophomore year, it was just those 2 weeks of preseason, no school during those times. But obviously the double sessions, the lifts, and it just kind of felt surreal. Like, am I really here? Did I really make it? Is this what's happening right now?
Yeah, especially after the online year.
Yes. Yeah. And being online for the good part of my senior year of high school. Like, oh my gosh, I'm out in the world again. It's brand new place.
People.
Wow. Yeah. And obviously, like, just mind blown, basically. Like, that's the best way to describe it. I was obviously physically, it was a challenge, and preseason is always going to be a challenge for every athlete. If it's not a challenge for you, you are Superman or super whatever.
Haven't seen one yet.
Yeah, haven't seen one yet. Yeah, and then going into when school was happening, it definitely was like a little bit of a challenge at first, but my team has always been great about, all right, we're going to do team study sessions in the library at this time, not mandatory, but like, this is where you can come and focus. And all my roommates last year, except for one honorary member of the team, and all my roommates this year, they're all very respectful of that, because, if you need your time to study, we got you, because we're on the team. We know how it is. You take your space, we'll take our space, and then we'll come together when everyone's all settled. And the resources on campus are amazing too. Like, if I'm struggling with anything, and I'm sure it's pretty much the same for most colleges too, just reach out for help. I know a lot of people struggle with that, but just professors and the library. We have resources at the library for peer tutoring and everything. Any issue I ever had, I could just an email away and boom, I'm getting help. So yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle just getting used to asking for help for those things, but really it was a great experience, and I'm excited for it again this year.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a mindset shift to, you go from thinking asking for help's a weakness, and there's a point when you realize it's actually a strength to realize that all these people around you, your teammates, your professors, your extended family group, whatever it is, they're just waiting for you to ask. They'd love to, they want to see you be successful. So that's
Exactly.
tough for people. Again, thank you for bringing that up on here.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm not sure what year this happened in, but you were listed in the Portland Press Herald as the player to watch.
Yes.
Were you a junior?
I was a junior 1 year, but they also mentioned me my sophomore year, which was, like I said, like you said, I only started my freshman year.
Early. So yeah, okay. So here you are, you have college aspirations. Were you thinking basketball still at that point, or kind of field hockey, or and what kind of pressure did that put on you, or did it really give you a good bump of adrenaline to go for it?
It gave me a huge push. Just knowing that all the hard work that I'd been putting in such a small town, we had maybe 200 kids at our high school. Such a small town, small area, that the higher up area, big newspaper picked out my name out of all those kids that were playing as someone who was being successful in the sport. And I was trying my best. Like I've said, I was pushing as hard as I could. And sometimes, some days when I'd come home after an 8-0 loss or something crazy like that, I'd be down on myself and I'd be like, all right, is this even worth it? And at the same time with basketball, well, the news article came out, I believe, in summer or around fall time, right before basketball season. And I struggled my freshman basketball season because I'm a good solid 5'3", and I've been good at basketball growing up, but like I said, with soccer, seeing people's skills accelerate, and it really wasn't my passion anymore. I wasn't passionate about becoming better at that sport, and where it made it a little difficult with my height, I was getting blocked with my shots. I couldn't block other shots anymore, and I didn't have the motivation to get the skills to move around all that. I was like, well, maybe I should just focus full-time on field hockey. If this is something that I'm working so hard at right now and I'm getting recognition for, and it wasn't really recognition, it was more like validation.
Right.
Like the validation that my efforts are doing something. I'm actually being successful, even though the scores might show otherwise. That maybe if I invest my time full time in field hockey, then I can be even more successful. And yeah, that's kind of how that split, and the passion for field hockey actually, yeah, definitely did start with that article. I was so excited. I shared it with everyone. I was posting about it. I was like, everyone, look it.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. Were you getting other validation kind of closer to that team? I mean, it's tough being on a team that struggles, but I think 1 point out of that is you can be a really hard worker on a team that struggles and get noticed, obviously.
Yeah.
Were you being noticed before that article came out, or just noticed and you kind of being, oh, you're just saying that to make me feel better kind of thing?
It definitely, it made me feel really good in the beginning, but then at some points it did feel like, oh, you're just saying that to make me feel better. Hearing, oh, you did really great today, from the same people after every game all season. And it was, I mean, obviously their parents were coming up to me to say good job because they knew how tough it was on me. They knew that I was struggling with all of this. So it was really sweet of them. And I definitely did appreciate, but it's like, oh, the whole crowd's coming through and they'd be like, oh, nice job. Like, you really did your best. And it's like, I know I did my best, but could I have done better? So eventually, yeah, it did kind of feel, I wouldn't want to say that it was half-hearted at all. I knew they meant it, but
Yeah.
it definitely felt to me. So getting the validation from like the people who watch field hockey players, it definitely felt really good.
Yeah, I think after a while, all the well intentions and completely truthful feedback of, hey, great job today and stuff like that. I think I think that's when the kind of that positive mindset feedback, whatever you want to call that, it starts to feel a little Pollyanna and like, oh, where it's not, but it's like, oh God, I'm hearing this every game, and
Yep.
it can't be true every single game, can it?
Exactly. And then around that sophomore year time, I started playing club as well. And that was just kind of to test my waters and, oh, do I really like field hockey like this? And we started right off with indoor field hockey, which is kind of more like ice hockey. It's 5v5 on a basketball court. You've got boards along the sides, so you can bounce them off the boards like an ice hockey rink. And it was like a whole new world for me. And I just went out there and I was like, all right, we're going to try. I'm going to do my best, just like always. And I got recognition for that as well. And my team actually made it to the national club championship for indoors that first year. And I was like, holy crap, like this could be my thing if I'm good at this and I'm keep pushing at this, because I had amazing coaches giving me, little pointers along the way. They're like, that's a soccer goalie thing. Fix that, do a field hockey goalie thing. It really was great. And I think one of my best qualities as an athlete is that I'm coachable. I want to be coached. So definitely being able to use that to my advantage to move forward, it was a great motivator for me as well. And the validation from the club coaches and just making it to those bigger tournaments, that was my validation for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny, I noticed you were coachable too, along with that competitive spirit. We were doing some movement drill, I think, when I was out there, and I was like, I don't know, should I say anything? I don't, and I did, because I can't
And
help
you pushed
myself.
me over.
Yeah, yeah, you were like, oh, that makes sense. So
Yep.
yeah, just this, you were willing to take feedback from this guy here who doesn't know a lot about field hockey goalies. So
But you goalie coach, you have knowledge, and I'm willing to take from anyone who has knowledge. And if it doesn't work for me and it doesn't apply for me, I got to know that for myself. But I'll never know if I don't try it.
absolutely, we're not making robots in goal. You got to find your own style.
Exactly.
Um, so so indoor field hockey, you've got me totally off my track now because you're teaching me. So is because you're in a little smaller area, even with fewer girls, I assume it's a little faster because you can play off the boards and things. Is your net the same size as an outside net?
I believe so. Yeah, it's maybe a little smaller. I've never really taken the measurements out myself,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I believe it's about the same size. And the cool thing about indoor field hockey as well is the ball isn't allowed to be lifted unless it's a shot. And if it lifts, it's a foul. Field hockey, we have so many tweets, whistles here and there, crazy rules like not touching your feet and all that stuff. But with indoor, yeah, it's all on the ground. It's super fast paced. The ball will be on the other side of the court 1 second, and then just one hit and it's almost in your goal. So it's crazy fast paced, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, okay. I'm not having Carly show me how to do that because I can't keep the ball on the ground. So
Yeah, and that's fully bent over. You got one hand and both feet on the grounds at all times. So yeah.
I'm too old for that, dude. Um, so, okay, I'm going to skip a question here because you talked about the indoor national club championship, and you went to that twice with your indoor team,
Yes.
and you did one outdoor one.
Yes, I did get to go to one outdoor one as well. Yeah.
So what was the difference in the experience? I mean, at the point you're at the outdoor one, did you have a clear path for college now? And how did the difference between like the indoor and the outdoor kind of help or hinder you, if that's a good question?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think obviously my experience with outdoor wasn't very professional when I started. it was, like I had my coach Katie, who was amazing, and she was teaching me just the basics of goalie, basics of field hockey goalie at that point. So I wasn't learning a ton of the technical skills of the diving and everything like that. So then moving into club, I went straight into indoor. And since everything's on the ground, it was all about your job is to intercept passes with the dive with your stick, and being able to do slide tackles and double stacks and well, not slide tackles. We're not allowed to tackle, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. You're
Yeah.
aggressive, you're competitive. I get it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think starting in that indoor really did shape my style, because as a smaller goalie, I can't sit back and wait for the reactive shot because I can't reach the whole net. I have to be more aggressive and get up there and dive and stop someone before they shoot. So going right into an indoor national tournament with people who had been playing field hockey for years, their skills are incredible. I had to learn very quickly how to react fast and how to get on the ground and get up really quick. And that shaped my style. And then I think I went after that indoor tournament the next year, or maybe even that same season, I went to the outdoor tournament with the outdoor club team through Seacoast as well. And yeah, same play style again. I was into that, like on the ground, that diving, intercepting. And I think that's kind of what made me kind of a standout too, as well, compared to some of the others. Every goalie has their own skills. Like the bigger goalies always can get those top high saves, make it look super easy.
Right.
But my skill set was the being aggressive. I was really good on those 1-on-1 situations, which isn't typical because goalies, our gear makes it hard for us to move.
Right.
So I had to make it easy for me to move. I had to figure out which ways were best for me to move so that I can still be my aggressive, go get them, diving around, getting up quick, and all that gear. So, I mean, it definitely shaped me doing indoor first, I believe. Shaped me a lot. Yeah.
Well, and you being aggressive, you can cut those angles off to those high corners. Obviously the further out you are, the less chance they have to get it there. So I love the we talked about it a little earlier, the figuring out. It's like, okay, I have this puzzle to solve. I'm a little smaller stature wise. How am I going to solve this puzzle? How am I going to make myself stand out? I think I love that statement even more. So you're coaching with Seacoast. So you've got a bunch of littles that are looking up to you and you're coaching. How are you trying to instill that kind of mindset of how do I make myself stand out? How do I solve these puzzles? How are you making them, how are you helping them get to that point for themselves?
Yeah, it's definitely a little difficult for me to do that for someone else. Mostly because I don't spend much time with them. I wish I got more time, but maybe I'd see them once a week, once every other week. But with the time I have with them, the first practice I'm with them, I normally just kind of observe and I'll give basic technique tips. Like, oh, when you're clearing, keep your head down so the ball stays flat, like simple stuff like that. And then I kind of just watch and see what they're good at. Oh, this girl's really good at a good clear. This girl's really good at when she dives, she won't just let the ball sit in front of her. She'll clear it out after. And once I kind of pick up on those cues, maybe I'll give them more tips to be successful in those ways. Like, hey, great decision with going down on this play. Here's how to do it a little better and how to communicate with your team to make sure they understand what you're doing. Because a lot of the time, especially when I'm joining a new team, the players aren't expecting me to come out. They're not expecting me to want to take that shot. So I have to communicate with them. Hey, I got shot, you get the pass. Because the passes are the most dangerous for me, because once I'm out, I'm out.
Yep, right.
So if they pass around me, oops. So teaching, I think the best way that I can help them find their style is, if you're comfortable with this, you need to tell your team. Because once your team knows, they can help you become more comfortable. Because I definitely struggled coming out when I was playing back with my home team, because they were like, what the heck is she doing?
Right.
Last year, she was just barely new, and now she's out here trying all this new stuff. We've never even seen this before. So making sure your team knows what you're doing so that you can be confident in what you're doing. Once you gain that confidence, you'll find what works for you. So just kind of instilling, get your team involved, find your confidence, and just keep going with what you feel comfortable with. Yeah.
And I love it. I love it. Communication, teamwork, your confidence, really cool stuff. The littles are lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. I try my best.
Well, that's all we can ever do.
Yeah.
So you're looking at schools to go to, field hockey's your destination. How did you end up settling on Southern New Hampshire?
Oh, this is actually kind of like a crazy wraparound of a million connections. So if you know SNHU, they have advertisements everywhere. Like I went on a trip to Florida and I'm hearing their ads all over the radio.
Yep.
So it was a name that I had in my head already, just as like, all right, well, SNHU's a school in my area, and I wanted to kind of stay in the New England area. So that narrowed it down quite a bit. And I wanted to go to a Division II school. I liked the idea of being, I'm Division I, this is so cool. But academics are really important to me, really, really important to me. And I'm here to learn, and field hockey is an amazing thing that I do on the side, but it's still below academics for me. So I wanted that to be a priority, and then athletics. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to manage that balance at the D1 level.
Right.
So my goalie coach at Seacoast, Melissa Grant, I believe is her married name. Either that or Non. So sorry if I messed it up, if she's listening.
She's going to watch.
Yeah. And she was also in charge of the recruiting. So she would be direct communication with a ton of coaches all around. And my actual head coach of my first Seacoast team was Annie Valaire, and she was an assistant coach at Southern New Hampshire at the time. So she talked to me about Southern New Hampshire, just as her experience coaching there and how much she loved it. She wasn't trying to recruit me or anything. And then Mel, goalie coach Mel, she was just giving me like a list of, well, hey, if this is what you're looking for in a school, here's a list. And SNHU was on there. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll reach out to all these coaches. And Julie was one of the first people to respond. And to me, it showed that she was interested. And I was like, all right, great. We kept communication for a while, but I was still looking at other schools. And I did 3 official visits. I went to Franklin Pierce and Ringe, New Hampshire. I went to Pace University in New York. And then I came to SNHU. And my experiences at the other 2 schools, while they weren't awful, they were okay. And then when I came to SNHU, it was like instant sense of like, everyone always says like, this is home. But when I met the team, I was like, this is family. Like everyone says their team is their family, but it was instant like, oh, hey, Nichole. And I'm like, oh my God, she knows my name already. Like, they're asking me all these questions about me, and then an hour later they're like, oh guys, guess what, she does this. And I'm like, it was kind of, everyone was interested and just being so genuine and so kind. And the campus is beautiful. I love the campus, and the academic program was exactly what I wanted. I ended up changing programs right before coming in, but even then I just loved the small classroom style, especially because I came from such a small school. So
right.
I think, and one big thing that one of my coaches told me when I was picking the school, they said, do the broken leg test. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but if you're an athlete going to a school, don't pick it for the team. Because let's say you walk out on first day of preseason and you slip down the stairs and you break your leg, you'll never recover. Is this a school you still want to go to?
Right.
And I felt like being here, that it was a great school altogether, just amazing. But then if that were to happen, I knew my team would still have my back, that they'd still be there for me, and that they would all still be friends with me. It's not like I'm off the team and the world ends. No, I have no friends. I'm left alone in my room.
Right.
These were my people, and they still are my people. And yeah, just broken leg test before you go to any school. You got to make sure it's something that you really, really enjoy for the academics and the atmosphere before the sport.
I mean, what good advice? Again, just a few things in there, even just your, not being totally fixated on D1. It seems like so many kids these days are like D1 or bust, and they're
Yeah.
missing out on a lot of everything you just talked about. And I think the other thing is looking at schools and trying to figure out where to go academically, athletically can be very stressful.
Yes.
And it seems like if you kind of sit back and relax a little bit, it just all of a sudden comes together. Like you said, you found your family. It's like you felt good in there. They liked you. You loved the school. I think maybe the advice is be a little patient and trust the process a little bit, and don't get so stressed out about it.
Yeah. And I mean, naturally it comes with stress. Naturally, just the idea of moving away from home and all the more workload, and you're going to have to work while you're there to make the money to support yourself. And it's definitely all a little stressful. So letting it go when you get to the school and just experiencing it for what it is. And then if you don't find any you love, you keep looking. I still had ideas of, oh, well, all right, I checked out these were my top 3 schools. If these top 3 schools don't go, well, I have a few others. And if it means I don't play field hockey, but I love the school, that's what it means. And I'm so thankful that I was able to find SNHU and the team I love and the school I love. So all good things.
Awesome. Love it. Oh man, I'm using all your time up tonight. So we'll get to the question left to you from the last guest.
Okay.
If you hadn't played field hockey in college, so you just said if field hockey didn't work out, what other sport or hobby that you don't do might you have picked up?
That I don't do, or one that can I choose one I dabble in?
Okay, I think dabble counts.
Dabble. Okay. So if I were not playing field hockey, my first choice would be basketball, but not really gonna happen. So that would be like the dream. The real passion for me would be to travel. I would love to study abroad and go experience another culture. I have had such a fun time just in the past 1 week living with 2 Dutch roommates, just learning so much information about their culture. Like, it was my sister's birthday today, and they tell me happy birthday. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, it's a Dutch thing. You wish the family happy birthday. I'm like, that's so cool. So I would love to travel and experience other things and learn new languages. Is so interesting to me that someone maybe just in another state could be living a whole different life than me. And I just love to see all that.
Oh, I love that. Were you always kind of like that? Or I noticed about your team, very multinational, very multicultural. Did that really help drive that love of that kind of international experience home for you?
Yeah, as a kid, I was always interested in learning other languages, and I tried learning Spanish as like an itty bitty kid. I was homeschooled, and my mom bought me all these Spanish textbooks. And when I got into public school, I took like 5 years of Spanish, and I was so frustrated with the fact that, yes, I know some of it, but since I wasn't immersed in it, it never really stuck. And I feel like if I were to talk to a native Spanish speaker now, I'd sound like a stupid white American imitating Spanish. Like, I feel like it would sound rude.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So now that I'm, seeing, even last year, we had a few international students from either Belgium or the Netherlands, and they all spoke Dutch, and just hearing them speak to each other, it was enough for me to pick up a few things. And I'm like, wait, this is my opportunity to immerse myself. And now that I have roommates who are Dutch, I'm like, please immerse me. Give me all of the words, all the vocab, everything I do. I'm like, hey, how do you say this in Dutch? Like, what's the word for this? And I've been picking up things here and there, and it's really kind of rejuvenated my passion for all that. And I'm excited to just keep, like, I'm always that person who wants to keep learning, to just learn more and experience more.
I am absolutely not surprised by that answer, because just talking to you tonight, and they always say a good, having an elite mindset, having an elite perspective, and just, I mean, just being able to immerse yourself in other people's ideas and culture and stuff like that. I'm totally not surprised you came up with that answer.
Yeah, yeah, always something I love.
All right, well, that wraps up the official grilling of questions.
Okay.
I know you had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed this. Yeah.
Was there something you thought I might ask that I didn't, and what might have you answered it with?
Well, going into this, I tried not to think of much. I just kind of was like, let's just go with the flow. I didn't expect you to do as much digging as you did. You found a photo of me at a block party when I was 9.
Hold on, do I need to bring that up?
But I'd love to see that again with my.
Okay, hold on. People are probably like,
painting.
what are they talking about? Hold on, I gotta go this way.
Yep, that face painting of the dog eating chips and salsa, that is from a block party in my hometown when I was 9 years old. Incredible.
That was a last minute find, by the way. That was like 11th hour. I was like, look at that.
That's the one photo when people, like, sometimes you Google yourself for fun. I'm like, oh my God, this photo is still up there. That's that photo. But I love it just the same.
I love that you love it.
Oh yeah, it's a good memory. But yeah, if there is a question that I was expecting you to ask me, I feel like you kind of hit some of the good ones.
All right.
If anything, I was expecting you to ask what, I know you and Julie did that class together. Maybe if you were going to ask me how I like my coach's coaching style or something similar to that. And of course I love it.
That's not a bad one, but me and her are kind of alike, so I think I may have known the answer to that. So
yeah.
Right.
That's a fair.
So the last thing of business is for whoever's next on this,
okay,
which I'm not sure who that is actually. What question would you leave them?
I would like to know what the most important is kind of a hard thing to ask. What one of the most important lessons, or a few of the most important lessons they've learned from their goalkeeping or coaching or whatever they do that has impacted their life, not their sport life, their real life with jobs and work and all that stuff. I'd love to know that.
I like that. Actually, I think I might know who's next now. That's a good question for them.
Yeah, awesome.
Nichole, thank you. This was awesome.
Yes.
I really appreciate your time. It was great meeting you, and you really agreeing to come on to this, having spent, hold on, how long did we spend together? 2 hours?
A few hours.
It was like really short. And I was like, you and Carly didn't like run off the field. So I figured, okay, well, I didn't scare them away at least.
No, I really enjoyed this time with you, obviously, but even the time that we spent just on the field, I can tell just from your voice and the way you held yourself that you were just so passionate about this. And I feed off of that passion and that energy. And it made my whole rest of my day. I mean, there wasn't much left, but that day and the next day I was going home and I was like, Mom, I had just a great experience. And I'm so happy to be able to get this little feed of energy again, to get my vibes up, to keep going. And
yeah, anytime, just reach out. I'll give you an energy boost.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be watching you from afar.
Oh, good, good.
Well,
Keep a track on all the games and everything.
I'm going to try to watch. They probably end up on Huddle somewhere or on your website or
On the
something.
website. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll be in. Of course, I'll be watching the goalie part of the game because that's the best part of the game,
absolutely.
right? Maybe cut and make highlight videos or something like.
Yeah, I'll send you my like film that I'm gonna watch myself. I'll send it right over to you.
Oh yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Nichole, again, thank you very much.
Yes. Thank
I
you
had
so
a
much for
great
having
time
me.
and I appreciate you coming on, and best of luck with your season.
Thank you. Best of luck with everything.
See ya.
All right. Goodbye.